So today I'm going to show you how to rewind time or make that effect in Gamemaker. The only thing I've done is created the player and its movement and created a test room, assigned the object player, a sprite, and placed the object inside of the test room. So just the basics. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new class, and I'm going to call it class rewind. I'm going to make a create event, carry over a piece of code, and as always when I'm making classes, I want to make sure that it inherits, just for when I create new classes in the future that will go above it in its parent classes. So the first thing I want to do is set a switch that will say whether rewind is rewinding and equals false. We're setting it to false because by default we don't want the system to think that we're rewinding. So the next thing we're going to do is set up a step count equals 5. And this will be useful later, but isn't related to these next, isn't directly related to these next variables we're about to set up. And it's just going to be the X position. And we're going to set up 12 of them, starting at 12 and finishing at 1. Okay. Then we're just going to take this, copy it, and this will be for Y. So we just need to replace X with Y. So now what we're going to want to do is open up our step event, and actually we're going to create the script. We're going to create it right in the script. So script rewind and we're just going to make a variable in here, rkey equals keyboard check press chord R. And that's just going to create a variable that turns to true or 1 when the R button's pressed. And what I'm going to have that do is when if R key, so if that equals true, what we're going to do is set rewind equals true. And we're doing this that way the R key doesn't have to be held down throughout the whole time. I can just set that to true, and it also helps for certain other pieces to the puzzle. Because this is going in our step event, that's where we're going to call this script from, we can treat it just like a step event. So if rewind equals false, we want to iterate down step count. We want to negate 1 from step count. Negative equals 1. Then if step count equals 0, we want to, well, actually what we want first is, it doesn't really matter where I put it, so I'm going to put this here. If step, or I'll make it an else. Else if step count is less than 0, step count equals 5. So we just reset the step count if it's less than 0. If it equals to 0, though, we have some work that we need to do. We need to fill in the positions. So what we're going to do is we're just going to come over here, copy this, and we're going to paste this right here. And the first thing we're going to do is remove 0 now because, and I'll explain it in a second, just replace this, and it's just going to go from 11 all the way down to 1 at this position. So it's going to go 11, 10, and all the way down. And here we're just going to take object player.x. Then we're just going to do the same for the y position. Okay, and we're set. And so what's going to happen is if rewind equals false, so if we're not rewinding, then remove 1 from step count. So if step count equals 0, so once every 5 steps, we're going to, and actually we can just remove this and then just reset it at the very end here. We can just write step count equals 5. And what happens is the first time it runs, it'll say x position 12 equals x position 11. And so it'll take x position 12 and set it equal to 11, which is equal to 0. And it does that all the way down, and they all go up a position. The only new information we really get is the object player x at x position 1. So if you think about it, all these zeros shift up, and the player x is put into x position 1. Then the next time step count hits 0, it shifts up 1 again, and so the old player x goes up to this one, and the new player x is then put into x position 1, and it keeps shifting its way up. And it does the same with y. So the next thing we need to do is if rewind then step count equals 0. Rewind is true. Step count equals 0. So I don't want that to be step count just equals 0 every time, unless it's like a one-time thing. But no, if step count not equal to 0, then we're gonna make it equal to 0. No, we don't want to do that either, because then it's just going to always set it to 0. Count equals 0. Well, no, I could do Jeez, I can't believe I forgot how I set this up. This one piece, it's just because if it's true, we need step count to equal 0, so then we can start iterating up. So we don't want it there then. Where we want it is once the R key is pressed. Once the R key is pressed, we want step count equals 0. And then what we do is if rewind, so if we're rewinding, if rewind equals true, then we're going to want to take a switch statement of step count and what we're going to do is we're going to do one before that, just step count plus equals 1. And actually we're going to do it after, because I think we want to use 0, right? Or no, we start at 1. So no, it's fine there. Just talking to myself. So we have the step count, and with each one we're creating a case and a break, and inside the case, so if it's 1, we want to do object player dot x equals x position 1, object player dot y equals y position 1, and we're just going to take this and copy and paste it a couple of times. Because we're going to be iterating up to 12. So 2 and make sure that you also set these from when you copy and paste, not just the case number, but also the X position number and the Y position number. And I just accidentally set 3 a bunch more times. Seven. It's very repetitive, but very worth it. It's a very cool effect. So now what's happening is we reset the step count to 0 when R was pressed, and then as long as and we also set rewind to true. So while rewind is true, we step count +1 for every time we're in the step event. So step +1, so it's 0 + 1. So the first case would be 0, and we're going to do this Y position, which is the current, and then we'll go through again. We'll go through the next step, and it goes to this. Then what we have to do is once we get down to case 12, we need to set step count equals 5, and we're going to set rewind equals false, and then that just handles that loop here. Then it starts counting again. That should be everything, I believe. Step count equals 5, rewind equals false. Okay, we're just going to go and call the script though. Script execute script rewind. And I'm actually going to call this from down here. No, I'm not. I'm going to keep it up there. I did keep the R key in here, so I don't need to do that. If I would have made the R key in the other script, I would have had to move it down because it wouldn't have known what the R key was until the other one. So what we should have is a rewind. Let's see, pressing R and not working. What did I miss? Oh, I don't think I inherited. Class rewind. So I did it in the actual script part, I just forgot to actually set it. And now pressing R. And there we have it. And let's go again. Now pressing R. Now pressing R. So we have our reverse time effect. Hope that helped. I'm just going to go over the script again and how it works. So in the create event, we're just creating that, and that's so after we press R, we don't have to keep holding it down and keep rewinding it. Now, I chose 12 for a reason, and that was because I didn't want to write 60, and I might have talked about this. I've had to redo this video a couple of times because I messed up. But the X position, and I chose 12 because I wanted to go back 2 seconds. So when we have step count to 5 and then we only load it on 0, well, each one of these is 1/6 of a second. So it's 1, 2, 3, 1/2 of a second, 4, 5, 6. That's 1 second. So that's the second half of the 2 seconds. This is the first half of the second of going back. And I chose to go by 5 because I didn't want to write out 60 different variables to hold. Plus, I think that it works just as well. I think that you should be able to go farther back faster. Like, I think when you press a button, you should be able to go back in time a little bit faster. I don't think it should be the same speed that you originally did it. There should be some change. But that's just opinion, and you can change it so it is the same. What you could do is change the step event in the rewind so that when you're doing this, you change the cases so it's once every 5. So it'd be 1, and then on 6, then 11, then 16, 21, all the way down. So the step count would be on those, but then you'd have to remember to reset step count to 5 on whatever that was, whatever that number happened to be, and rewind to false. So I did reuse the step count too. I originally used it to count down from, but because it's a step count and that's what I'm counting, I reused it. I just reset its value before using it again because the first time I used it, for what I use it in, I don't need it anymore, so it's technically off. So then it's open and it's counting the same thing, so I chose to use it, and that's why I reset the step count values. But I hope that helps you make a nice little rewind type effect. Have a good one. Peace.